The college baseball experience on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play their fantasy pick'em for a chance to win 100x in NBA, MLB, MMA, NHL, golf, and more. Sign up today at UnderdogFantasy.com using promo code TCESGPN to get a 100% deposit match. We're also brought to you by Royal Retros. Royal Retros has jerseys, t-shirts, hats, jackets, and sweatshirts from all of the old school teams that you love. Use promo code SGPN for 10% off your order today. That's code SGPN at royalretros.com. All right, already welcome back to a brand new episode of the College Baseball Experience. Today, I've got a special show that usually I don't do unless I'm just desperate for content. And AKA today, today, 3 people messaged me, 2 via DM, 1 out in public on Twitter, the Bird, the X, whatever you call it, asking me about some futures. Now, first off, let me introduce myself. My name is Noah Bieniek, aka 77. You can follow me on Twitter at NoahB77 _. So, 2 of them were like, hey, I'm just now getting into college baseball. I know there's not a ton of value out there right now, but what teams would you say, hey, just get a position on entering the postseason? And then there's another one on Twitter that straight up asked me, should I bet Tennessee? Now, I was like, okay, this is a show idea if I don't ever have game lines that we could talk about on the podcast. Hence, today is a great day to do it since 3 people asked me, and I had already kind of dove in a little bit to give them an educated answer. My educated answer, first off, is I think this year there isn't a top tier team that looks like they're invincible. There's not a team like last year's Wake Forest and LSU. There's not a team like 2022 Tennessee. There's not a team like 2021 Arkansas or whatever year that was. I think it was 21 Arkansas. But even them, I think that 21 team relied a lot on Kevin Kopps, who was the hammer guy out of the bullpen, coming in leverage situations, shutting down opposing offenses. That team kind of seems similar to some of the other teams that we're talking about this year at the top of the list. And in summary, for the show, it's going to be a short one because I went in depth on 6 different teams at a couple of price points that I think are viable. I have 2 of the top tier teams that are, considered favorites. I have 2, actually scratch that. I have 3, I would say middle shots. Like all of them probably are hosting a regional, but they're all over 20-1. Don't worry. I did all of the line shopping for you. I'm going to let you know exactly what book you can get each one of these futures on if you want to get it. And then there's one long shot that actually is not even listed by any of the sports books. And it's not a fucking crazy one. They're on the bubble. And if you follow me on Twitter, you can go see me hit up one of the sports books asking for them to be listed. Because, I might fancy the College World Series appearance. But going back to what I was saying here, I don't think there's a top team. So for me, I'm going to value the draw. And a lot of times I prefer to see the draw before I really spray the board with futures. Now I have done that, but previously, in my fucking chair, what the fuck? My chair height just went down like 2 feet there. I had to readjust. But a lot of these that I jumped on were in the preseason. Just with the niche market, money moves them, and oftentimes it's an over-exaggerated move, or if there's no money at all, it doesn't move some of these lines. So like I don't know what a good example of that would be, but it's just there's not a ton of money in the market. And if you miss the opportunity, it's not going back up. There's just they don't update the market's prices enough for it to like bounce back up to where some of these previously were. Um, but I feel like I'm in good spots. I'll read you off what I have. Full transparency of this show. I'll let you know. Uh, well, all of them I gave out. Some of them were on articles. Some of them were on this podcast, and only one of them only happened on VSiN and not on this podcast because I wasn't too confident in it. But they had asked me for something, put me on the spot, and I'm like, you know what? I just talked about it. I'm gonna place some money on it. Let's walk through what I have. All of these aren't great. We're gonna start off with the team that I had in the preseason as my national championship favorite, the Florida Gators. I have an 11-1 on the Gators. That is currently not great at all, Bob. The next one I have is the next shortest one, I should say, for the national championship is Arkansas. I also have them 11-1. Gave that one out on the podcast and in the preseason article that I wrote for sportsgamblingpodcast.com, which we were talking about that article in the preseason shows. The next one was my the next one I have 25-1 on Oregon State to win it all. That one's okay. We're hoping they host here. And then the fourth one here was my favorite for the price that I got it at. First off, I bet it as soon as the odds dropped, I put it out on Twitter that, hey, this is my favorite bet this preseason on a team to win the national championship. That was Clemson at 28-1. Then like a couple days later, Circa dropped their college baseball futures market and they put it at 40-1. And then Ryan Kramer of the Sports Gambling Podcast jumped over there and hopped on it with me. And he gave me a piece. So I have a lot on Clemson to win it all. Personally, I don't love how much I've got on it, but we're riding it. And then the next largest one, actually, so that's the next largest one I had was Northeastern in the preseason, 200-1 to win the College World Series. I also had that was just a sprinkle. I had a larger position on them to just get to the College World Series. I had them at 20-1 there. There were two national championship futures that I added during the season. 3 weeks ago, we gave out Mississippi State 26-1. I had just found myself betting them and betting them and betting them. Fell in love with Cal Seaven and Urangela Sanja in that weekend rotation. And hey, if Nate Dom gets back for the Bulldogs, they're going to be dangerous with that weekend rotation for sure. And they've got enough pieces in the lineup. It's not a deadly lineup per se, but they've got enough pieces. The Mississippi State team, I don't know what that price currently is at, but I got it 26-1 to win it all there. I don't know if that's great or not. I honestly didn't even really look. I don't know if that's probably the best price you can get currently. And if you like Mississippi State with me, I would advise you to jump on them after the Arkansas series this week, because I don't think they're going to win that series. And the other one that I gave out, this one was never publicly on the podcast. However, I wish it was. I have Texas A&M at 20-1. I gave that out on March 3rd on VSiN, just saying that was a team that, had passed the eye test for me because I had doubted some of their pitching. Lately, the pitching hasn't been great in the weekend rotation for sure. And we'll touch on that in a little bit because they are one of the 6 teams here that I have listed for the show. And it's going to be the first one that we read off in handicap. The other positions real quick that I have Florida State 11-1 to appear in the College World Series. That one looks like a great position there. UCSB I also have at plus 800 to go to Omaha. One to throw right into the dumpster is 22-1 on USC to make an appearance in Omaha. And then the last one that I have that's not bad. It's Troy to go to Omaha at 31-1. That was my preseason Sunbelt favorite, and they're hot right now. However, they just lost to Alabama. Shit day for me gambling college baseball on Tuesday. We go 1-3. Loyola Marymount was the one that came through for us there. The two totals got absolutely destroyed. Like, holy shit. Before we jump into these actual teams and handicap them one by one, and why they are good, what prices you can get them at currently. Are you a hardcore baseball fan or just a degenerate sitting in an office looking for some afternoon action? Either way, you'll want to make sure that you subscribe to the MLB Gambling Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. The NBA playoffs are here, and our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, wants to make it a lot more interesting. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pick'em game is as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and so much more. Make entries of all basketball or mix and match across your favorite sports. You can win up to 100 times your money, and it's a ton of fun. Underdog is available in 30-plus states, including California, Texas, and even Canada. Personally, was writing nightly college basketball articles for Underdog Fantasy for the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We're hitting at 62% there. When you're doing well, making money, it's a lot of fun. And last year, we were doing well picking College World Series player projections that Underdog Fantasy was putting out. Hopefully they'll do that again for the postseason here. And Underdog is available in 30-plus states, including California, Texas, and Canada. They also just launched their Champions player versus player format in Florida. Make sure you sign up with our code TCE SGPN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code TCE SGPN. All right, let's jump into some of these teams. The YouTube chat rolling a little bit here. We have porn bots in the Twitch chat. But Joshua Northcutt says Mississippi State, you can currently find them at 40-1. I think it's a very solid price. However, they're not in the group of teams that I'm giving out here, mainly because I'm not trying to handicap price. I think when you're looking at the market now with just 2 weeks to go in the regular season, you missed the boat on the so-called best price for a lot of these teams. So I'm not giving out price. I'm trying to give out good positions on teams that have a great chance to win it all. Great is a loose term, I guess, because there is a long shot here that might not even make the field. But it's not unreasonable. And I'll get into that lastly. They're the sixth team that I'll go through on the show. The first team that I would say, if you're picking up college baseball right now, or you just want a future on one of the top teams, for me, I put my vote of confidence behind Texas A&M. Personally, I think they've got enough pieces to be able to do it both on the mound and at the plate. A&M is sixth in the country in team ERA with a 389. They're 28th in fielding percentage, 979, and they're 10th in the country in runs per game with 9.3. Those are the three teams' statistics that I look at the most, mainly because you got to pitch, you got to score, and you got to defend. And everything else that you might want to look at, it all gets cooked into those three numbers. Truthfully, it does. And those are three very, very easy numbers that everybody can understand. Why fielding percentage is so important in Omaha. The field is large. It's one of the largest ballparks in college baseball. So there are less home runs. More teams are playing a little bit of small ball, a little bit of aggressive base run and moving base runners over. You have to be able to field the ball. You can't be kicking the ball around. It's amateur baseball. It happens. The average team in college baseball makes more than one error per game. We want less than one error per game. That's the typical going rate that I look at. Hey, if you're good at defense, you're making less than one error per game. All six of these teams that I'm going to talk about today are making less than 6 errors per game. They're actually elite defensively in the country. And I'm looking at teams that can pitch the ball well. You don't have to be amazing on the mound, but I like a good group. I'm not looking for just one ace. I'm looking for a group of 6 to 7 arms that can string innings together. You look at it last year where some of those teams that got there, let's take LSU is a great example, actually. They had an ace in Paul Skeens. They had a nice SP2 in Ty Floyd. They did not have a third good starter. Thatcher Hurd turned it on as lately in the year, but he wasn't amazing. And they used mainly 2 arms out of the pen, if I can remember correctly. It was Riley Cooper and it was the big lefty that they currently still have on their team. And they mixed in they mixed in 2 other righties, but they weren't used nearly as much as Cooper was. They basically used the Ole Miss model from 2022, where Ole Miss had an ace in DeLucia. They had, a good SP2 and Hunter Elliott, who has been out, unfortunately, the last couple of years with arm issues. He was a freshman that year. And then they were able to string together 2 bullpen arms that they could rely on. And after that, they just mixed and matched. That's really all you need, along with hot hitting. And during this time of year, it's not an amazing point to try to predict which teams are going to be hot because you still have a month left of the year. The College World Series is taking place in late June. It's May 8th right now. The championship game is going to be like June 26th this year, I think it is. And you're playing games from June 1 to June 26th. You have to be hot during that time. Just because you're hot in the beginning of the May doesn't mean that they're still going to have it all figured out come early June. So A&M, 44th ranked weekend rotation per ERA, 431. Their bullpen's second in the country with a 332 ERA. Now, they do qualify with an ace. Most of these teams do. Only one of them don't, and that's the long shot. But A&M has an ace. It's Ryan Prager, the left-hander. I mean, he's not going to blow away people, but he's going to pound the zone, and he's racked up quite a few strikeouts this year with 85 in 64 innings with 11 walks. Batters are only hitting 206 against him. He's got a 175 SIERA with a 267 ERA. It's elite in the best conference in the country. This is where it gets a little bit shaky. If you're trying to poke holes into Texas A&M, it's right here with their SP2 and their SP3. Currently, Justin Lampkin's their SP2. He's going on Saturdays, or at least he went last Saturday, because this Tanner Jones thing, he's the SP3, has really just kind of spurred up recently. But Justin Lampkin, since March 30th, he has a 9.79 ERA. On the season, though, it's a 4.74, so he's done well non-conference, but not really in the SEC. Lampkin's got 62 strikeouts, 16 walks, and 49.1 innings. Under the hood, though, the SIERA is 274. It's a solid SIERA. You expect him to perform better, have better lines throughout the rest of the season here, and maybe when he's playing a little bit lesser competition than in the SEC. So, like when you get into a regional, and if you draw a good team in the super regional, he'll be able to mow. Tanner Jones, on the other hand, isn't amazing. That SIERA, it's a 408, which transfers to about a mid-5s ERA, if I am doing mental math correctly. On the year, he's got a 6.98 ERA. In SEC play, it's an 8.82 ERA. And he doesn't miss bats. Only 37 strikeouts and 38.1 innings pitched. They need to figure out the third starter here. They're kind of entering postseason play like LSU last year, where they did not have a third starter. The bullpen, though, is very solid. Evan Ashenbeck, Chris Cortez, Shane Sadeo, and Brad Rudis. Those are 4 reliable relievers with sub-3 ERAs. And then the lineup, I mean, when you're featuring 7 guys with over 300 batting averages, they're all OPS and over 1,000, and then 3 guys have 18 plus bombs. This is one of the best lineups in the country, and they're doing it in the best conference in the country. And I'm going to do this for all 6 teams that I'm talking about here. Stars, I'm going to go through lineup where, how many guys are doing good shit, but the stars, the names to know for each of the teams. I mean, for Texas A&M, it. It's Jace Laviolette and Braden Montgomery. Laviolette going to be one of the top picks in the 2025 MLB draft. He's batting .326 with a 1303 OPS, and he's got 26 homers. That's top 5 in the country. And Braden Montgomery going to be a top 10 pick in this year's MLB draft. He's batting .342 with a 1296 OPS and 24 home runs. That duo is just killer in the middle of the lineup there for A&M, and that makes him one of the best plays that I think you can jump on with 2 weeks to go in the regular season. The best price on Texas A&M is plus 500 over at DraftKings. They're minus 134 on Bet Rivers to go to Omaha. Honestly, on all 6 of these that I'm going to give out here today, I wouldn't bet to get to Omaha. Those prices are just totally jacked. Not priced well at all, in my opinion. My second favorite team here, which is Tennessee. It's one that somebody asked me publicly on X today. I like Tennessee. I think they're my second favorite to win it all this year currently. After this exercise, seeing which teams are the most balanced, I think you have to put Tennessee to. They've got the 5th best team ERA in the country, 384. They are ranked 27th in fielding percentage at 979. It's a 4th ranked runs per game offense as well, averaging just under 10 runs with 9.9 runs per game. This is where it's a little confusing because it's not the typical Tennessee team that we've been used to under Tony Vitello. The weekend rotation's good. It's not amazing. It's ranked 50th in the country with a 4.45 ERA. The bullpen's excellent, though. 12th in the country, 393. They don't have an ace, per se. If A.J. Russell comes back healthy, he looked like he had ace stuff, but we've only really seen him for 3 starts this season. And he's been dealing with arm soreness or shoulder, something with his arm, something with his wing. Has not been 100% this season, and we've barely seen him outside of the first 2 weeks of the year. So on Fridays, they go with their opener, Chris Stamos. He's holding opponents to just a 182 batting average against him. So that's great as an opener. And then their bulk innings guy here is AJ Causey, who's a real funky 3/4 submarine arm who throws in the low 90s. He's got a 4.12 ERA. The Sierra is 2.2, though. He's got 78 strikeouts in 59 innings with only 13 walks. It's elite. It's really good stuff. And myself being a low slot joker, that's my guy. But I would not call him an ace per se because they can't trust him early in games. I don't know what that is, but whatever it is, this Stamos Causey duo has been working. On Saturdays, they go Drew Beam. He's got a 3.39 ERA. He doesn't really miss bats, though. 61 strikeouts in 69 innings. And the Sierra's up there. It's 3.45, so that translates to about a 5 ERA. And he's got 14 walks. So he's going to fill up the zone, but it's hittable. That he goes in game 2s for them. And then in game 3, they go back to the opener strategy with Xander Sechrist. 4.14 ERA there, 45 strikeouts, 9 walks, and 41.81 innings. Drew Beam type, honestly. Like, he's not going to blow you away with, like, high heat and good stuff, but he's consistent. And then Nate Snead is the the electric stuff guy. He comes in after, kind of like how Causey does after Stamos. Snead, 2.82 ERA, 44 strikeouts, 51 innings, 16 walks there. The bullpen, you have technically Causey and Snead are qualifying in the bullpen numbers here. That gives them the 12th best bullpen in the country. But Aaron Combs is the go-to leverage guy that Tennessee's been using this season. He's been amazing for them. He's the righty. And then Kirby Connell, lefty, Andrew Chafin looking guy, long curly hair, good mustache. Those two have been nails for the Vols out of the pen this season. The lineup, it features 6 guys hitting 300. All of them have an OPS over 1,000, and 5 of them have 14 or more home runs this season. The stars on this team, again, this is a team that a lot of people are going to know, but Christian Moore has been amazing, just outstanding in SEC play this season. Really kind of only behind Charlie Condon in production in conference play. Moore has a 387 batting average, a 1235 OPS with 21 home runs. Right behind him, though, Blake Burke on his own team, 380 batting average, 1194 OPS with 15 home runs. Tennessee is a very balanced team. This is a team that I would recommend you putting some money on if you're looking for college baseball futures to win the national championship. Those are the 2 front runners that I'm talking about here on today's show. We're going to get to 3 teams that are probably hosts that have better prices and could be enticing. But I'll get to that right after I read the chat and right after I get to an ad. Off Grid Sports says, do you still believe in your LSU ticket? I didn't have an LSU ticket, honestly. So I don't know what that mention was for. Off Grid Sports says, I only bet on pitchers with good mustaches. That's a great strategy to do, honestly, for sure. I'll be right back here on the college baseball experience. Sorry, I don't know what that was all about. Royal Retros is looking to prove that you know ball. What better way than to showcase your old school fandom with some old school gear from a classic team? Royal Retros has jerseys, t-shirts, hats, jackets, sweatshirts, and more from the vintage sports leagues and teams that you know and love. The Dirty Bird, the Orange Crush, or the Sack Exchange all make for 6 jerseys for real fans. All make for 6 jerseys for real fans. Use promo code SGPN for 10% off your order today. That's code SGPN at royalretros.com to take 10% off today. All right, we're home free here on the college baseball experience. Writing down my ad time real quick. And we're going to get into some of these reasonable dark horses that are also hosting. Like, we're going to talk about some really balanced teams here that can make for fun futures positions. The next team that I am going to talk about on the show here is Duke. The best price on Tennessee, plus 900 on FanDuel. No, I didn't get LSU outright when you guys were in Vegas. I don't think so. I'm trying to remember what that would possibly be off grid. But no, I wasn't on LSU this year really. I thought they would be the 4th best team in the SEC. That's completely face planted, but I did have their season total under. So I wasn't amazingly high on the Tigers this season. Duke is the 3rd team here that I'm talking about with College World Series national champion futures. Currently, you can get Duke at 23-1 on FanDuel. If you're available in a legal state with Circa Sports, they do have a couple of online mobile sportsbook apps out there for the States, but also if you're in Las Vegas, Duke is actually 26-1 on Circa. They're 18th in the country in team ERA with a 4.24, 21st in fielding percentage, 9.79, and 24th in runs per game at 8.7. A steady balance, elite across the board in all 3 facets of the game. The weekend rotation, though, like I mean, if you've been following Duke at all this year, they really only have Jonathan Santucci, and then they piece it all together after that. So I'm not surprised to see that Duke, their weekend rotation, 64th in the country with a 4.63 ERA. However, it's a 21st ranked bullpen ERA, under 3.5. Sorry. The ace here, Jonathan Santucci, like I mentioned, he's one of the stars of this team. He's got 86 strikeouts in 56 innings, which is just amazing. 3.54 ERA. Opponents are only hitting 189 against him, and it's a 2.75 SIERA. So even if you look under the hood, he's limiting hard contact. This is a guy that has been dominant when he's been at home. He's been a little bit weaker away from Jack Coombs Field, but Jonathan Santucci is the real deal. The next 8 guys leading Duke in innings have all thrown at least 20 frames, and they all have opponent batting averages under 240. Like, this team excels in its pitching depth. They don't have a ton of top of the line arms outside of Santucci, but what they do is limit hard contact. They excel at it. This lineup, it features 5 guys that are hitting 298 or above with an OPS over 1,000, and all 5 of those guys have double-digit homers. And the star on the offensive side of the ball, how is it not Ben Miller? He's hitting 414 with a 1240 OPS in 13 home runs. So that's my third favorite team here. If you're looking to bet a College World Series future today, again, it's not because it's an amazing price out there. It's because it's a balanced team. That's what the qualifications were here. Honestly, like I said at the beginning of the show, my favorite team coming into the preseason was Florida. It's no longer Florida. I think the number 1 team in the country right now is Clemson in my mind. But at the same time, there are some weaknesses of Clemson that I don't love. They don't field it well. They're starting shortstops out for the year. And even today, like, they can't really hold a lead, but the offense is good enough to come back. It's a really fun team to watch. They're my favorite team in college baseball, no doubt. And they would be, even if my guy Eric Bakich was not the head coach there, who was formerly the head coach at Michigan, who got the Wolverines to the College World Series in 2019. In my opinion, if you can get a Northern ball team into the College World Series, you are doing it right. I mean, you look at the 2 guys that have done it in the last 3 years, or the last 5 years now. It's Eric Bakich, who did it at Michigan. He's now with Clemson. And it's Link Jarrett, who did it with Florida State. And we're going to fucking talk about those Seminoles right now, because I was on them in the preseason. I was bullish on these Noles, but I wasn't this bullish. I didn't think they'd be this good. In the preseason, I thought they were going to be the 5th best team in the ACC. They have a shot to win it outright. And it's behind. So currently in the country, they're ranked 27th in team ERA. It's a 4.47 ERA there. 6th in fielding percentage with a 981. 16th in runs per game at 8.9. So again, elite across the board. And they do it behind Jamie Arnold, who's their ace, and he's been the anchor because they've lost 3 starting pitchers this season. They lost Gavin Adams in the preseason. I believe that's his name. He was chucking triple digits in the fall. And then they lost Cam Leiter in the middle of the year, and they lost Connor Whitaker in the middle of the year. Both arms are supposed to come back. Whitaker is going to be back this weekend, the rumors are. And coming into this month, Whitaker was actually the guy that I was hearing murmurs about that they were less confident in coming back. So Cam Leiter, I'm expecting to be back for the postseason for sure. I think Florida State is a great team to jump in on because, I mean, shit, they were 27th in the country in team ERA, and they were without 3 guys that they thought were going to start a bulk of their games this season. And when that kind of thing happens, it pushes up your top bullpen guys into roles that they were not expecting to be, that you were not expecting them to be. They were not properly stretched out to pitch 6, 7 innings in a game rather than 1 or 2. So it just puts a lot of stress onto the pitching staff. And yes, it's not been amazing. That's been the weakness of this team. But when you put in the uh, just the thought of slotting back in 2 starters prior to the postseason that were around in the non-conference slate in Cam Leiter and Connor Whitaker, this team gets really interesting. Currently, you'll find Florida State at 25-1 to win it all on Bet Rivers. Like I said, Jamie Arnold going on Friday nights. He's been outstanding. 101 strikeouts and 68.1 innings with only 17 walks. It's a 2.37 ERA, and the Sierra is even better with a 1.85. He's been borderline untouchable. And like I mentioned, Cam Leiter, Connor Whitaker, those are the 2 guys that were starting games when the season began. However, Carson Dorsey has emerged as a very solid starting pitcher option here. Of the 3 guys, he's actually got the best ERA of them with a 3.66. Cam Leiter is going to offer you the best strikeout stuff. He's got 56 strikeouts in 35 innings. And Connor Whitaker is going to pump the zone. He's not going to walk a ton of guys. He's only got 8 free passes in 39 innings pitched this season. Those 3 are very solid there. And add in the 2 more bullpen pieces that have been like if we're talking about like a lead pipe flexing in but not totally breaking, it's Brennan Oxford and it's Andrew Armstrong. Both of these ERAs are a little bit inflated because of things that I've already talked about here. They were put into situations, either start games or come in for long relief when they were not expected to in the beginning of the year. But both of these guys have really done all that Link Jarrett and company could ask for and a little bit more. So those 2 are very reliable relievers there. And then you're also going to get whoever doesn't start games out of Dorsey, Leiter, Whitaker to be a reliever as well. If I were to choose, it would actually be Leiter, because I think he has the most electric stuff out of the 3, that if you turn him into a reliever, he's going to be lights out when he comes in a leverage spot. And honestly, he's getting healthy, I guess, last outside of Whitaker. So Leiter, you're not going to have as much time to stretch him back out into a starting pitcher role. Honestly, just slot him into a late innings type role with the ability to throw 5 or 6 outs in a game. And Leiter's going to be outstanding there in the back end with Oxford and Armstrong. The lineup, it features 6 starters. They're all hitting over 300 with an OPS over 930. And 4 of these guys have double-digit home runs. The 2 stars on this offense for sure are Cam Smith, who's hitting 386 with an 1105 OPS and 10 home runs. And then James Tibbs III has been the biggest breakout draft prospect for this season so far, hitting 381 with a 1291 OPS, 19 home runs. And honestly, the thing that I'm most impressed about is he's got more walks than strikeouts. So Florida State really, really loved this team and their makeup. And I think currently you're going to get them at the lowest price they're going to be for the rest of the season as they continue to get healthy on the mound. The second to last team that I want to talk about to you guys today is East Carolina. Colby's Pirates are 30-1 on Bet Rivers to win the national championship. I mean, currently, they're the 5th or 6th ranked team in the country. I mean, they've got the 3rd best team ERA at 3.55. They're ranked 24th in fielding percentage at 979 and 45th in runs per game with 8.2 runs per game here. The weekend rotation is legit. You could say all you want about the conference and the strength of schedule that East Carolina's faced on the weekends, but it's got a 3.04 ERA. The bullpen is very good as well, 9th in the country with a 3.79. The ace, Trey Savage, is one of the biggest stars on this team. He's 10-1 this season with a 1.69 ERA, a 1.06 Sierra. It's elite. He's got 124 strikeouts with only 21 walks and 74.2 innings. It's 124 punchies in 74.2 frames with an opponent's batting average of 152. It's otherworldly what he's doing. And he's, again, one of the top 11 MLB draft prospects. If you go and listen to that show that I did last week with MLB.com and MLB Pipeline's Jonathan Mayo. SP2 on this team is also very, very good. It's Zach Root. He's 6-0 on the year with a 3.14 ERA, 2.61 SIERA, 68 strikeouts, 16 walks, and 57.1 innings. And he's holding opponents to a 2.23 batting average. Then the next two here, Jake Hunter and Ethan Norby, they both have 6 and 7 starts respectively, and they both have ERAs under 4.10. So they've really kind of bounced back and forth of who's starting that third game of the weekend. Honestly, they don't even need it. They've been starting, both of them in midweek games when they're playing like even better competition in the midweek, with all the Carolina teams being very, very good once again this season. They've been winning some midweek games with these guys on the bump too. So battle-tested pitching staff, 100%. The bullpen, though, I mean, Wyatt Lunsford Shankman has 77 strikeouts in 45 innings. It's a flat 1 ERA. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. A very, very good piece there. You can throw him in game 1, game 3 in a weekend, in a regional, in a super regional, and he's a game breaker, 100%. 77 strikeouts in 45 innings, and it's a flat 1 ERA. The most ridiculous line I think I've seen, maybe outside of you, Savage, and a couple other guys, like only a handful of guys have knocked me off my socks when I've read their line, than Wyatt Lunsford Shankman. Remember that name. I think he's only a sophomore. The other bullpen piece that is key for this team is Pirates' Danny Beal. Danny Beal has 51 innings under his belt with a 3.35 ERA. This lineup doesn't feature a ton of boppers. They've got 7 guys with an on-base percentage above 380. That's elite. And all 7 of those guys are batting over 290 batting average-wise. Like I said, Savage is one of the stars of this team. The other one that I wrote down, there's a couple of the lineup kind of on any given day, anybody steps up and does their thing, but Carter Cunningham on paper jumps off the page the most. 399 batting average with an 1190 OPS and 12 home runs there. That wraps it up for East Carolina. For what it's worth, they still have a gigantic monkey that they have not been able to get off their back. They currently have the most NCAA tournament appearances without being able to get, like, they haven't gotten to the College World Series yet. They have 0 Omaha appearances, and they've got something crazy like 30 NCAA tournament appearances. If there was ever a program that's knocking on the door to do it, it's East Carolina. And why not just knock on the door, just bust it down, win the whole damn thing? Because I think top to bottom, I mean, you don't need power to win in Omaha. It's a gigantic park. Just get some runners on base and move them around, manufacture some runs. East Carolina does that. I think they're the most equipped to win the national championship right now. If you don't question that the competition that they've played isn't the SEC or the ACC, but they've beaten those teams in the midweek games. So East Carolina, I think right now you can get them at 30-1 on Bet Rivers. That would be the one that I endorse the most. Like, go out and get yourself a position on the Pirates to win the national championship this year. If not this year, I don't know when it's going to happen. Now let's get to the long shot. This team right now currently is on the bubble of the NCAA tournament. Currently, they just took, actually on Tuesday, on May 7th, they took their worst loss of the season to Fairleigh Dickinson, who's RPI ranked 262nd in the country. They lost 3-1. It was a low-scoring game. They fell from 43 in the RPI to now 53. What they were probably on the inside of the bubble, now they're probably on the outside of the bubble after just one bad loss. On the weekend, they swept Creighton, so it was a predictable letdown spot for sure. I'm talking about St. John's. They're 31-12-1 this season. Currently, like I said, 53rd in the RPI. They're 10-9 on the road. They do have a road win at Florida. So, like, they're not going to be intimidated by the bright lights going into like an SEC or an ACC environment. That win was on opening day in Gainesville. Like, it's not going to get any more rambunctious at Florida. I mean, you can get a little bit more rowdy SEC crowds, a little bit more, I wouldn't say too many more ACC rowdy crowds, but Florida is not one of the most lit SEC crowds, to say the least. But it's still an impressive win to go on the road on opening day and knock off the College World Series runner-ups from a season ago. St. John's, team ERA 34th in the country, 4.56 ERA there. 35th in fielding percentage at 977 and 55th in runs per game at 7.9 runs per game here. The thing about St. John's is they don't have, like, this is your Oral Roberts if you were to want a Golden Eagles team from last year. That pitching staff did not blow me away at all last year. I doubted that pitching staff because they didn't miss bats. They pitched to contact, and they were in one of the worst conferences in college baseball. And it turns out those guys were very, very good, and they pitched well against top-tier teams, very good offenses in that Stillwater Regional. They were able to hold their own in Oregon. When they got to Omaha, the offense really shined. And I think St. John's has the opportunity to be that team. Everything that I'm looking at on paper is like, yeah, I mean, there's a possibility here. 25th ranked weekend rotation ERA wise with a 3.92, and the bullpen's 35th in the country with a 4.43 ERA. So they don't have an ace for what it's worth. They do have a Friday night starter, but he's not an ace. Mario Pescia, he's a sophomore right-hander. He's 5-1 on the year with a 2.76 ERA, 43 strikeouts, 30 walks in 58.2 innings with a 4.59 SIERA. So that SIERA number is not very good. Basically what the SIERA means is that if you were to put him in a league average size ballpark, so nationwide average size ballpark, it's taking basically quality of contact metrics, how many kind of runs you're giving up in a neutral environment in college baseball. I prefer SIERA rather than fielding independent pitching or whatever the FIP stands for, and XFIP, mainly because FIP really relies on walks, strikeouts, / hit by pitches, and home runs. I'm not looking for home runs in college baseball. Home runs are prevalent kind of on the national scene. However, these lineups don't have like in the MLB, FIP is good because a lot of those guys can put a ball out of the ballpark. However, in college baseball, each team really only has 2-3 guys that can put a ball out of the park. Most of the time, pitchers are also not really striking guys out at a tremendous clip that MLB pitchers can. SIERA rewards pitchers for getting weak contact, whether it's on the ground or via fly out. By taking in batted ball in field of play, SIERA I value a little bit better. The 4.93 SIERA is about a 6 ERA. It's not amazing. However, this is kind of like the Oral Roberts staff of last year. On paper, the ERA, the standard line, it's great. Under the hood, the thing that nerved me the most about the Golden Eagles pitching staff, they defied the odds and made a little bit of a run. St. John's, much like Oral Roberts last year, the ORU Golden Eagles did not play an SEC team. They did not play an ACC team. I'm not guaranteeing that's the way that it's going to be for St. John's. However, being in the northeast portion of the United States, you get the weakest baseball demographic in the country. And they're called regionals. They're called regionals. They're called super regionals for a reason. They're trying, the NCAA selection committee is instructed to limit travel to the best of their ability. So why wouldn't we try to target one of the weaker regions? It's the strategy that I try to do a ton. It's one reason why I like Northeastern a lot in the preseason. Northeastern's got plenty of talent, but they've underachieved expectations. St. John's has come out of nowhere and played pretty damn well this season. The Johnnies are on my radar for sure. I would be looking for an Omaha appearance here. Let's go through the rest of the team. Their SP2 is Xavier Kohlhauser, another sophomore right-handed pitcher. He's 8-1 on the season with 3.66 ERA, 33 strikeouts, 20 walks, and 51.2 innings with a 4.93 SIERA. So again, that's another poor SIERA, another guy that probably has a 6 ERA when you're facing SEC competition week in and week out. However, he's been very good this season, and he's faced better competition than that Oral Roberts team did last year. The Big East is better than the Summit League by a mile. SP3, Evan Chaffee. He's a freshman left-hander, 3-0. He's made 8 starts this season with a 4.78 ERA, 40 strikeouts, 22 walks, 49 innings with another mid-4s SIERA, 4.39. These guys pitch to contact. It's going to depend a lot on the draw. However, this St. John's team right now is not even listed in the betting market. I'm hoping that they come out like if we're talking to make a College World Series appearance, I'm looking for 8-1. If we're talking to win the College World Series, I'm hoping for at least 50-1 on the Johnnies, and I'll look to make a play. Possibly the best arm on this team. So like last year, Oral Roberts had a freak in the bullpen, Jacob Widener, just a mammoth left-handed pitcher who was throwing 3/4 from the left-handed batter's box across his body into the strike zone. Just absolutely wicked. I'll be honest, I've not watched a ton of St. John's baseball this season, but this guy, to me, looks like he's probably the best arm on this team. It's Louis Marinaro. He's a sophomore left-hander. He's 6-2 as a reliever this season with a 2.95 ERA, 46 strikeouts, only 13 walks, and 36.2 innings. He's holding opponents to just a 162 batting average with a 260 SIERA. So just immediately jumping off the page as this guy is the most talented guy. He's probably throwing 2 to 3 times in a week for the Johnnies with a 36.2 innings pitched, which is, just about 20 innings less than each of their starters, which means he's probably throwing 2 innings, 3 innings each appearance that he makes here, as his record 6-2. Also in that bullpen, you'll find Tim Cunningham, Ben Adams, and Kyle Chase, who all have sub 450 ERAs with more than 20 innings pitched. That's your pitching staff there for the St. John's Red Storm. The lineup, it's much like a Oral Roberts lineup. There are 6 hitters batting over 300. 3 guys have double-digit steals on the year. There's not really any power hitters, but the star of this team offensively is Blake Mayberry. He's been on base in 35 of St. John's 38 games so far this season. He's hitting 387 with a 989 OPS. If you're looking for a similarity to the Oral Roberts team last year, he's basically their Jonah Cox, getting on base every game for them. Blake Mayberry. Remember that name. The guy with the biggest pop in this lineup is Jimmy Keenan. He's got a 321 batting average, a 1011 OPS. He leads the team in 9 home runs, and he's second in the team in RBI with 42. You could be saying, hey, St. John's, I don't know about this team. They don't play great competition throughout the year. Like I said, they have the road win at Florida. They have 2 road wins at Sam Houston this season. They went 1-2 against UConn, who is kind of the titan of the Big East Conference. They won the series against Xavier. They took 2 or 3 against them, and they swept Creighton. So this is a team that's going to need to do well down the stretch to get into the field as an at-large team. But if we're talking about winning the Big East Conference tournament, they've swept Creighton. They won 2 or 3 against Xavier. They played Georgetown the final week of the season, and they took 1 of 3 against UConn. UConn's not a tremendous offense, St. John's on paper, better team all around than the UConn Huskies. They've got a shot to win the Big East tournament. They've got a shot to make a run in the NCAA tournament. St. John's is a fun team to have on the radar for sure. A team that I have overlooked for much of the season because they're in the Big East, because there's not a ton of betting odds on the Big East games week in and week out. If there are betting odds, you have my attention, but most of the St. John's games, I would say, have not really had any game lines. So I would say about half of them I've picked, and less than half I've actually traditionally handicapped. So definitely will be keeping my eye on St. John's here as we move along. This show actually went a little bit longer than I thought I was going to be, but I thought I delivered really good information and handicapping on each of these 6 teams and why I think they're solid options that if you're looking for futures to jump on right now, those are the 6 teams that I would endorse you doing. And hopefully we'll get some odds on St. John's soon. Keep up with my Twitter at NoahB77_ or the show's Twitter, TCE on SGPN, and we will give you the update, give you the news when St. John's is offered on these betting markets, because I can't wait for the day. I'll get myself a piece when it happens. If it's a reasonable price. Like I said, I'm looking for like an 8-1 to make an appearance in Omaha. I'm looking for like a 50-1 or north to win it all. Honestly, I'm not probably going to put anything on them winning it all, but I think there are the ingredients for a little bit of a Cinderella run into the College World Series for sure. So that's it for me. It is to recap one last time: Texas A&M plus 500 on DraftKings, Tennessee plus 900 on FanDuel, Duke 23-1 on FanDuel, also 26-1 on Circa, Florida State's 25-1 on BetRivers, East Carolina's 30-1 on BetRivers, and St. John's not currently on any of the legal American online sports books. I did not check any of the offshores. I might have to do that here after the show. But thank you all for tuning in to this episode of the College Baseball Experience. You better start thinking about yours. Adios, amigos.